I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review, and I want to thank all of our panelists and speakers for participating in this quarterly mini jam. These events have been wildly successful for us, helping to drive over 700,000 subscribers to our YouTube channel in the first year alone. And of course, we are continuing to build the always-on community site at InsightJam.com, where you can connect with experts like you'll see today, along with colleagues and peers, and continue the conversation around enterprise technology. If you haven't already joined InsightJam.com, please do. And if you have, please invite a colleague to join as well. And again, thank you very much for being here and enjoy this event.
Solutions Review presents the Insight Jam Expert Keynote.
Hi, my name is Dave Cameron. Thank you for joining. Our discussion today is around artificial intelligence, but what I call subject matter artificial intelligence. And I'll explain that throughout the course of today's talk. What it basically is at a high-level summary is taking the time to bring in a context expert, someone who knows the domain, someone who understands the context, somebody who's not coming in cold like just a pure machine learning engineer or a pure AI expert or whatever. But that context expert has to know something about AI in the first place. So what it'll do is it'll increase innovation, productivity, and overall engagement. And you'll understand more as I go through this. But first of all, why me? Let's see. I was asked. All right, it must be more than that. I have had several leadership roles. I both succeeded and failed. I've led business teams and functions in both a smaller company, a $50 million company, and a large company that's $5 billion and global. And for that company, I was a global lead for business analytics. So not really the hardcore, data science-y, machine learning type of person. More, it's analytics and it can be involved, but it's how do we provide value with that? And as a result, I'm currently teaching at the University of Chicago and in that field in predictive analytics. And where that framework came from is I have experience in building and leading teams in business. I've actually built 5 separate teams when the first time I got promoted to a senior level role. It's something I'm good at bringing people up to speed and helping people understand stuff. And that's one of the reasons why teaching appeals to me, and I continue to do that. I've also consulted with a lot of experts in this field. One of the things besides teaching is I make money doing my own consulting. And in order to do that, I do need to keep current. I can't go back and say, well, gee, it's been 5 years since I've looked at this topic. Things move too quickly. Done a lot of reading on the subject. My wife teases me. She says, oh boy, I read things like Henry Ford's biography. You read things like the Little Book of Data and that. And it's like, well, yeah, I have to understand what's going on there. And really, I need to set up students for success in business, right? I mean, a university like University of Chicago is not going to employ me and not going to be very happy if, when their students get out, they're not set up for success. And that's a key focus of mine. I'm not a PhD professor who's into the research side. I'm more focused on, again, that application, that business analytics. And it's one of the reasons I'm talking to you today is because with artificial intelligence, I'm not focused on the latest, greatest, shiny new toy in that area. I'm focused on how does it help people be more productive? How does it help companies be more productive? How does it help us all advance in the world? So what you have to do is set the right context. And I'm going to go to the quote first, and then I'm going to back into some stuff over here. You need to understand what's important, and you need to determine what you need to get there. So Dale Carnegie, who is a business, just an expert in a lot of different things, succeeding in business and in life from probably a century ago now, was quoted as saying, an hour of planning can save you 10 hours of doing. So artificial intelligence, or AI, is becoming more and more pervasive. I mean, it's so crucial for doing the best work on important efforts. We actually have classes in it specifically because now, if you're graduating from a university and you're getting into the business world, you're expected to know some of this stuff. And it does mean that you need to take stock of the goals, the context, before jumping in. Okay, like I said, it's not just about, oh, this is a great new tool and what do we do? You have to understand the business context. And that's back to my understanding what's important, determining what you need to do to get there. Do that hour of planning. And what do I mean there? Because just using AI is not enough. Can you know why you're doing it? What's going to benefit? What's going to happen? How are you going to do better through all this? Can you envision a better future if you do? And so again, we accomplish that through this understanding what's important, determining how to get there. And I teach a lot of critical thinking. This isn't like coming out of, a kids program or something, or you're just telling somebody what to do. And you don't want AI to just tell you what to do. You want it to be a tool. But the challenge I found a lot is in today's environment of easy computing power, when you use artificial intelligence, when you use machine-driven suggestions, so many of us jump right in versus stepping back and thinking about what are we doing and why are we doing it? And I got my duh point here. You're going to see, I'm trying to catch your attention, right? Duh. What am I leading up to? And that's an example of just doing instead of thinking. So how many of us just accept spell correct on our phones or even, when you're doing something on your laptop or tablet, right? My son's name is Ian, capital I-A-N. The AI programs change his name to I am. Maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but I think you'd be surprised at how much communication he gets saying, "Dear I am." Yeah, isn't that much worse when you first try to engage with somebody that's screwing up their name? Somebody sends them an email, a text, or whatever, says, "Dear I am." You know darn well it gets deleted right beforehand. People are just doing. They're running it through, they're doing spell correct, and they're not taking the time to step back and think. My whole thesis topic today is around doing the same thing with AI, right? Going in and saying, hey, don't just take it what's in there. If you want to start marketing to people and just take whatever spell correct gives you, obviously you're not going to be very successful if you're getting stuff like this. But you can save a lot of time if you do take the time up front to think or to bring in somebody who really knows the domain. But the common sense approach in the planning that was once second nature, I've seen it with my clients risk losing awareness with the advent of easy to use AI. It's like, hey, we can finish this in 5 minutes. We'll just do it through AI. And, before it took them 4 hours. But 5 minutes is too much of a cutback. You need to spend that time. You need to think. And I mean, this is a basic one, when you're looking at somebody's name, right? Everybody knows I picked this one because you all know, oh yeah, this is just a duh moment, right? But it's often a little more complicated like that when you get into what I call that subject matter expertise, the topic of today's talk. So let's create the atmosphere. Let's do some brainstorming. Let's do some thinking here. You want to take time to set the context. You don't just take today's immediate reaction approach, right? Just like the I am situation there. Okay. You need to understand back to what am I trying to do? What looks right? What doesn't look right? What do I need to include? What do I not need to include? And do I need to bring in somebody who really understands the subject and also understands AI? Which means you need to be comfortable enough to know your first instincts may not be the best. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of times they are. I mean, but go back to spell correct, right? Spell correct is probably correct the majority of the time. But you can't just accept it if you go back to my son's example and say, okay, we're changing Ian to I am, right? Now, that one but there's other cases where you look at it and say, hey, this looks right, but you haven't really dug in. You're taking things at face value. And I would recommend you question things. Besides my professor role, again, I make money off of consulting and it helps for case studies for my classes that I teach. And I give students case studies and I look for them to do critical thinking. I look for them to question, oh, wait a minute, is this really what I want to say? So when you do important things, ask advice. Again, find somebody who knows the AI well. Find a subject matter expert. Recognize what you're good at versus what others can provide. And be willing to be humble. Be willing to admit you're wrong as well. I'm going to be honest. I was an all-A student in college. I came out of there, many years ago when And I thought, I'm really sharp. I'm really sharp. I got in the business world, and everybody I'm working with is as well, or close to it. And I had to be wrong a couple times, and I wasn't used to it. But I got there when I was 24 years old. A lot of people today know their field, know it inside and out, but they're new to artificial intelligence. And sometimes they have to admit, oh, wait a minute, I didn't know enough. I got this wrong. So it's back to that Dale Carnegie quote. Take that hour of planning. Plan up front. Make sure, and we'll see, you want to get your inputs right. You want to use AI correctly. You want to make sure you've got right sources. You want to make sure you're doing things legally too, but it's more from that subject matter expertise that's my approach. And this is what we're born with. I mean, you're born with the greatest weapon of all of nature, the rational, conscious mind. And it's just so important to use that. And it's what actually, like for a lot of my students, when they first get into the business world, it's what differentiates people who succeed versus those that don't succeed. Those that don't succeed know the latest algorithm, they know the AI stuff and everything, but they have not done enough critical thinking. They haven't done enough of this type of stuff. Whereas the people who have really thought it through tend to be able to succeed more in business and help the company more. So I had recommended here leveraging subject matter expertise. So if you take an artificial intelligence system and it's designed and trained to perform tasks that are specifically within that subject matter, specifically within that domain, specifically within that field, whether it's healthcare, whether it's consumer surveys, whether it's tracking sales, whether it's doing marketing campaigns, anything, you want that specialized knowledge and data that's relevant to that subject area. I've worked with auto companies who have to decide, how do we optimize inventory by dealership? So let's say you're selling a high-end luxury car like a Maserati versus a pickup truck like a Ford F-150. Today's data pretty much tells you where you should sell the Ford F-150 versus where you should sell the Maserati. And people who are listening to this, generally know that Maserati is a, US dollars, $150,000 vehicle. You're going to be going for wealthy individuals. A pickup truck is often like a rural area for hauling gear or that kind of stuff. It's a different audience. But again, something that it sounds like common sense to us, but if you talk to somebody who's actually in that domain, they know a lot deeper. They know a lot more. It's not like you can just say, oh, everybody who lives in Montana buys a pickup truck, or everybody who I live in the Chicago area, everybody who lives in the wealthiest suburb of Chicago, buys a Maserati. It's not that simple. And that's why you run it through an algorithm, but that's why you have an artificial intelligence system that's trained by what these experts know. What have they seen? Where has the pickup truck sold? Where has it not sold? Where has the luxury car like a Maserati sold? Where has it not sold? And if you bring in the data relevant to that specific subject like that, then what's going to happen is you'll find that the AI works a lot better because it's been trained on the data you need to make those decisions. And there's pockets. I mean, it's interesting because, if you go back to the pickup truck, when I was, I'm going to say 20 to 30 years old, the richest man in the U.S. was Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart. I mean, he was worth an amazing amount of money, but he didn't drive a Maserati. He drove a pickup truck. So understanding, the reason is because he came from rural Arkansas and he didn't change. I mean, he grew something, but he didn't build Walmart for the money so he could drive pickup trucks. I mean, he wanted to create something wonderful. And so his mindset was still the same as it was when he was 14 years old and he was learning to drive a pickup truck in rural Arkansas, right? So that subject matter expertise where someone who works in that business, who works in the auto industry, knows that type of motivation and knows the type of data that should go into the AI system and knows when you train it, does it make sense, does it not make sense? Whereas people outside of that would look and say, oh, great. So you live in, you live in Miami Beach, close to President Trump, and guess what? You're going to buy the Maserati. Or you live in rural Montana, you're going to buy the pickup truck. Well, a lot of the time, yeah, but not all the time. You need to understand more. You want to go beyond. If you're going to use AI, you want to go beyond just the basic stuff and make sure you're capturing what's going on in that domain. So my second bullet point, it allows more accurate and informed decisions when you put in that subject matter specialty, that domain specialty, that field specialty versus like a general purpose AI system. And a lot of people are starting there. You use a lot of these tools, you get a general purpose AI system right now. But I was asked to say, where are we going now? What's happening next? And without going into detail about agents and that type of stuff, I'm taking it from the high level and saying, yeah, this is an artificial intelligence tailored to a specific subject. Again, medicine, finance, law, what I say before, survey design, marketing, financial investments, that kind of thing, where it understands the unique complexities and also the jargon of that field. Sometimes terms are used in a specific field differently than they're used other ways. And I cut this cartoon down in the lower right there, a bunch of dogs sitting around a table saying, we've got the big data report, did the competitive analysis, and nobody thought to include cats. That's the thing. You have to bring in your subject matter experts. It might not be just one person. It might be people from different areas within that. So if I go back to my auto example, you want to bring in an auto dealer. You want to bring in somebody who understands AI. You want to bring in a manufacturer who understands the mix of vehicles. You want to bring in, marketing research people who've done consumer insights so they know what are the motivations behind it, right? So this is essentially it. And even the U.S. Patent Office has updated things. So recently, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, they got to have acronyms or for everything in government, USPTO, issued a guidance update on patent subject matter eligibility to address innovation in critical and emerging technologies, including in artificial intelligence. So they realize there's a lot of, questions with them. And how do we make sure if we build something and we patented it, it's safe? And how do we innovate while not saying, oh, well, I just developed something I patented and then AI picks it all up and everybody can use it without recognizing, hey, I patented it. So they've had to change. The latest update builds on previous guidance and it provides more information, more clarity, and consistency on how this office and how people who apply for a patent should evaluate specifically subject matter eligibility. And I'm thinking, hey, this is the direction we want to go. And the patent office is keeping up, and this is their biggest thing in importance. That should tell you something right there. And there's a lot of research on this. You can go online. A lot of the government stuff is public domain and all that. But what they did is they announced 3 new examples of how to apply this guidance throughout a wide range of technologies. Now, I'm not going to go through those 3 examples. That would take me an hour. But to let you know it's there, and if you're really interested, you can search, you can find this. And I read them through, and it tells me, it basically reinforces that, yes, subject matter eligibility is a big thing here. So you need a subject matter expert or an SME. And to get there, it's changing along with AI's development because the SME brings in the context. And that they're an individual, they've got deep knowledge in that field, they've got expertise in a specific field, they've had education in it, they've had experience in it, they've had success, but they also need to know something about how AI works, or they're not going to understand how do you train these models, how do you ensure the input is correct, how do you make sure that what it's doing, it's back to kind of the garbage in, garbage out type of thing, but it's like you get that subject matter expertise in there so you're improving on just the basics, what we call it. Now, it's funny to think 2 years ago, I'd be calling this the basics. You're right. And I got another quote there. Without context, a piece of information is just a dot. It floats in your brain with a lot of other dots and doesn't mean a damn thing. Knowledge is information in context, connecting the dots. And you need to do that. You need to have your subject matter expert do that and get those inputs correctly, get the subject matter expert part correctly, and then you're going to get much more amazing results. So there are 6 things that I see the subject matter expert doing to drive AI excellence. First of all, they should assist in the development and the implementation of the actual AI strategy. You don't just bring them in as an order taker, okay? They're going to develop and implement the strategies to streamline the business. make them part of the decision-making process. And they're also going to have to train and support. They're going to have to instruct the staff members, the people who are using AI, and how to use it correctly, and offer support while they do so. I mean, be a sounding board for them. This is crucial because you need someone that staff members can go to and say, hey, this is new. This is the first time I've seen this. Before I really put my name behind this, am I getting the best answer out? I really should. Are we utilizing the technology to its full potential, and also securely, efficiently? How do you make it so it doesn't take, a really long time, and that, it's safe from hackers, and you're not violating laws and that kind of stuff? I think the SME can also do research and development, or R&D, because a lot of it is what I've seen is around new product development, is taking what you have to the next level. Because a lot of the stuff that, efficiency in the pre-AI days was around how do you automate things? How do you standardize it? How do you operationalize things? Well, now what this enables us to do is to develop new products from it. So and then problem solving. You want to fix the most pressing issues facing a company. You can't do everything. You got to prioritize. And the subject matter expert knows what's most important. Then providing the right inputs. I mean, the SMEs know the domain the best in-depth knowledge. They can provide precise inputs and make sure that if you give it really good inputs, you're going to get really good outputs, right? And descriptions of what the AI model needs to find. And then testing them, creating them. Create models, test them, improve them, tweak them. I mean, we all know the first time you get something, it's not your best effort. You continually refine it. I mean, AI is being refined so quickly, it's hard to keep up with. But if there's this specific subject matter expertise, same sort of thing. So the long-term success of AI is really going to be influenced by the domain knowledge from these SMEs. So I got a couple examples of one where Google has publicized it, of what to do wrong. And the reason they've done this is they don't want people misusing their AI, to be honest. But they did a study on their hiring practices. They took everyone that interviewed there and used a predictive analytics algorithm to predict who'd get hired and what were the most influential characteristics. I missed the S there. They found an ethical problem. So let's look at a 5-step approach to evaluation versus simply implementing AI. So observation. The predictive algorithm showed the biggest reason someone got rejected was lots of certificates. And that makes sense. You get a lot of certificates, but you don't have the experience, so you don't have a degree or whatever you need, right? But the biggest reason someone got hired was the first name of David. Yeah, let's analyze that. Okay, yeah, lots of certificates can't substitute for real classes, can't substitute for real experience. But the first name of David is clearly a predictive algorithm thing versus human thought. So aside from the fact, I guess I should have applied at Google, what do we infer? Well, for scanning resumes, you can skip those with lots of certificates versus real education. And for David, recognize that unsupervised algorithms aren't perfect. So communication, share this with the decision makers, the findings, 2 recommendations, including the silliness of the finding as problem solving, right? Have a policy to have the screening process, screen out heavy certificate resumes, but ensure the process does not use name as a selection criterion. Any human resource person knows that. You don't hire based on name. You don't put that as an input. But that's what I'm talking about. A standard AI system is not going to know that. You need an SME who does know that, who says, hey, when you train these algorithms, don't put somebody's name in. It's unethical. It's illegal. And if you take that part out, Google's AI worked wonderfully. So you can see how damaging this could be if you don't do it right. I would give a couple examples like healthcare. In healthcare AI applications, I'd want a medical professional like a radiologist. Like that would be my SME to provide insights into the development of models of, diagnosing diseases from X-rays, medical images. It could help in annotating the images, defining different categories that you would diagnose from, and it can validate how well the model is predicting against the clinical outcomes. And it's going to take a while up front. It's going to take more time for the radiologist to work with this than before. But once the radiologist gets in and can train the AI model and can help with this, it's going to save a lot more time in the end. That hour of planning versus plunging right in. Financial industry. An SME with background in finance could look for fraud detection. And we see that a lot with our credit cards, right? It looks for fraud. A risk assessment, if you're evaluating a new investment, or algorithmic trading because where an algorithm just makes the trade for you. By providing the industry-specific knowledge, the regulatory requirements, the data interpretation. I've seen so many times that, this sounds like a great investment. I'm going to invest in this real estate thing, and the tool says I should do this, but not realizing that real estate has different rules and regulations than stocks do, that kind of thing. So to close, some key points is don't mess up someone's name. My son is Ian, not I am. I hope that resonated with everybody. Don't use someone's name as input to hiring, in my Google example. So bring in a subject matter expert. They can determine the best inputs to be used in the process and what should not be used as inputs. Then they can help uncover the applications for AI. They can create and test AI models and implement AI solutions. So they need to know something about it, but you need them to have both. So an SME in artificial intelligence needs to be able to offer insightful opinions and suggestions regarding the application of AI in a particular specific field where they are the subject matter experts. And then they should be able to help businesses use AI to accomplish their objectives. So I want to thank everybody for their time and hope you found this valuable.
For video highlights, replays, and more, visit InsightJam.com.